Welcome back down to Ice Level. As always, I am your host, James Blennau, and we have just a few weeks left before conference tournaments start. So let's go ahead and see who's where and when's what in college hockey this week. To kick off our news this week, Cornell head coach Mike Schaefer just coached his final regular season at Lina Rink as he retires at the end of this season. In 30 years behind the bench and as an alumnus of the program, he has sent 25 players to the NHL so far, won 6 Whitelaw Cups and 3 Cleary Cups, and amassed nearly 350 wins before the start of his final year in Ithaca. ECAC Hockey Commissioner Doug Christensen also presented Schaefer with an Adirondack chair for his retirement as a gift for his service to the sport. From all of us in the college hockey community, we thank you, Coach, for all you've done in our sport and wish you a happy retirement. In another legendary coach's final regular season home game, Army head coach Brian Riley and the Black Knights won the final game at Tate Rink over AIC 3-2 in overtime on Saturday night. With Riley serving 33 years with the Black Knights and 21 as head coach, he surpassed his brother Rob in years as the program's head coach, also following his father Jack in the family legacy. He was gifted a saber from the Military Academy Athletic Department for his dedication to the program and retires as one of the program's most successful coaches. Coach Riley, the hockey community thanks you for your loyalty and continuous service to your school, the Coaches Association, the NCAA committee, and the sport as a whole. Enjoy your retirement as your legacy will live on. We have our first regular season champions of the year, and it's not who or where you think. Congratulations to the Holy Cross Crusaders and head coach Bill Riga on winning Atlantic Hockey America over the weekend after Sacred Heart's win over Bentley, owning the tiebreaker over the Pioneers. The Crusaders have one more game on Tuesday night, which would put them firmly in the number 1 spot points-wise, but are guaranteed the number 1 seed and home games throughout the tournament. Lee McClinsky and the Crusaders are looking for their first conference championship and NCAA tournament berth since 2006. The AHA's conference tournament kicks off March 1st, with the higher-seeded teams of 6th through 11th hosting a one-game elimination round. Game of the Week takes us back to the Big Ten. What else is new? I'll tell you what's new. A new number 1 in the USCHO Poll, since number 18 Penn State marched into Munn and took down number 1 Michigan State 3-2 on Saturday night after a 2-2 shootout win on Friday. Hayden Fink and the Nittany Lions have been rolling as of late after sweeps against Wisconsin and Notre Dame before this series, and this game was exactly what Guy Godowski's squad needed to make a late run at the NCAA tournament. With 15 total penalties, including a few roughing calls late in the game, it was definitely chippy in Game 2 of the series, but power plays were mostly unsuccessful throughout. Charlie Serrato picked up where his team left off the night before as Penn State scored just a minute into the game from Matt DeMarsico. J.J. Webush fired another past Trey Augustine just 40 seconds later to make it 2-0 Lions, and Arseny Sergeyev and the defense held strong through the whole first and second periods. Hayden Fink added another on the power play early in the second for what would be the game winner, but it didn't seem like it at the time. Sparty fired back in the third, rallying behind Tommy Manisto 12 minutes in and Carson Dorwart with 10 seconds left to make it 3-2, but it wouldn't be enough as Penn State took 3 points home and shook the Big Ten with that win. Jared Crespo and Simon Mack each blocked 4 of the 18 total blocked shots in Penn State's win, and an incredible defensive performance as Arseny Sergeyev made an impressive 42 saves in the game. In this week's Upset Uproar, despite neither team being ranked, if you watch these two teams, you'll know it's a major win. Notre Dame, who struggled mightily in the Big Ten this season, just hung 6 on Wisconsin in Madison in a 6-1 win on Saturday night. 2 goals in the first, 2 in the second, and 2 in the third had 11 players earning at least 1 point in the win. Starman Cole Knuble finished with a goal and an assist. Danny Nelson scored a goal, and Blake Biondi picked 2 apples for the Irish, as Owen Say saved 31 shots, and Paul Fisher and Hunter Strand each blocked 4 in a well-balanced win over the Badgers. The win marks only Notre Dame's 4th conference win this season, with the last one coming over Michigan in early January in South Bend. Despite the 9 penalties for each team throughout the game, only 1 goal came on the power play. The Irish now have a chance to be the ultimate spoilers as Michigan State comes to town for the final Big Ten series this weekend. As always, we kick off our cross-conference highlight hub with Atlantic Hockey America, and with the conference tournament field almost set, this weekend's games meant more than ever, especially for the middle of the pack. Niagara split their rivalry series in Western New York against Canisius, with the away team each winning the game in the home-and-home series. Army also split with AIC, winning Game 2 at Taint Rink in overtime. Air Force snagged a win in the shootout win over Robert Morris. RIT swept Mercyhurst, and Sacred Heart took one last win over Bentley. With only one game left in the conference, Holy Cross takes on AIC in a game initially rescheduled from the Yellow Jackets' goalie issues. Let's see what the nearly final standings look like prior to Tuesday's game. Holy Cross, of course, in first as the conference champions, followed by Sacred Heart and Bentley as the top three in the conference. Niagara follows them with 48 points, Army with 44, Canisius with 38, and Air Force with 37. AIC is almost locked in at 31 points, where they're at. RIT with 28, Robert Morris with 27, and Mercyhurst with 16 to round out the conference field as the postseason kicks off this weekend. The Big Ten ain't big enough for the both of us, is probably what Minnesota said this weekend. Besides Penn State and Michigan State's ties over the weekend, these games helped shape the conference tournament field big time. Number 5 Minnesota swept number 7 Ohio State at Mariucci in impressive fashion in the biggest games besides MSU and Penn State this weekend. Wisconsin took a split against Notre Dame, and number 10 Michigan took the weekend off to watch the world burn. With a new sheriff in the conference returning to the top, let's check out the Big Ten standings with one weekend of games to go. Minnesota leads the pack with 46 points, followed by a close second Michigan State with 44. Ohio State in third with 40, Michigan in fourth with 32, Penn State close behind them with 31, Wisconsin in sixth with 27 points, and Notre Dame far in last with 14 points. The whole CCHA was in action this weekend with 4 conference series, and Augustana facing Alaska at home. So let's go over who took points from where, with one set of conference games left after this. St. Thomas swept Northern Michigan in a massive boost for the standings in Marquette. Defending Mason Cup champions Michigan Tech split with red-hot Ferris State with 3 points for each team. Number 15 Minnesota State continues its NCAA tournament big campaign with a sweep over Lake Superior State in convincing fashion. Bemidji State took 5 points from Bowling Green up in Minnesota, and Augustana was swept by Alaska, but the losses will not affect their spot in the standings. Speaking of standings, let's check them out. Minnesota State leads with a .722 points percentage, followed closely by Augustana with a .625 and Michigan State with a .556. Tied with them in fourth place is Bowling Green with a .556, followed by St. Thomas in fifth with a .528. Bemidji State follows them in sixth with a .472, and a close Ferris State behind them with .444. Rounding out the conference are Lake Superior State also with a .444, and Northern Michigan with a low .194 points percentage. In ECAC hockey, the journey to Lake Placid continues as we rally off who took how many points this weekend among the 12 teams in the conference, since each team plays 2 teams over the weekend. Number 14 Quinnipiac and number 19 Clarkson were the only 2 teams to sweep their weekend, earning all 6 points. Most games finished in regulation, leaving Cornell, Union, Harvard, RPI, Dartmouth, and Colgate all taking 3 points from 2 games. Brown took 2 points off an overtime win and a loss. Princeton took 3 from a shootout win and overtime loss. Yale took 1 from a loss and shootout loss. And St. Lawrence took no points from 2 regulation losses. And let's check out the ECAC hockey standings as the season wraps up in just a little bit. Quinnipiac leads with 46 points, followed closely by Clarkson with 42 and Colgate with 37, also tied with Union. Dartmouth leads the Ivies with 33 and Cornell just below them with 33 on the tiebreaker, followed by Harvard with 28 and Brown with 26. Rounding out the bottom 4 are RPI with 22 points, Princeton with 20, St. Lawrence with 18, and Yale just below them on a tiebreaker with 18 points. In the Hockey East, it was much easier to read who did what this weekend since most of the series were home and home. Northeastern and number 9 BU split their series, each earning an away win, while number 2 BC swept Vermont at the gut. New Hampshire took a shootout win against number 16 UMass at home, but the Minutemen won the return game on Saturday. In the biggest games of the weekend, number 11 UConn took an overtime win at home over number 4 Maine on Friday, and number 8 Providence took 3 points from number 13 UMass Lowell on Saturday in the Ocean State. With the conference heating up and upsets becoming more common, let's see what the standings look like after this weekend's conference games. BC leads the pack with 47 points in 21 played, but Maine, with a game in hand, has 42 points. BU follows them with 38 points, followed by UConn and Providence, both at 30. UMass Lowell 6th and 6th with 29 points, followed by Merrimack with 28, and UMass just below them with 28. Northeastern has 23, Vermont has 22, and New Hampshire has 16 points, rounding out the teams across the conference. In the NCHC, with the top of the conference up for grabs, these teams did not disappoint. Number 12 Arizona State took 4 points with a win and overtime loss as number 3 Western Michigan came to Mullet Arena for a weekend series for the top 2 teams meeting right before the end of the season. Number 17 North Dakota is making their case to rise as they swept Minnesota Duluth at the Ralph, while rivals number 6 Denver swept bottom feeders Miami, Ohio. Number 20 Colorado College is also staying in it with a split against the troublemaker St. Cloud State squad. With an extra weekend compared to most as conference play has 2 weeks left, let's see who leads the standings into the last 2 series. Western Michigan leads a tight conference with 47 points, followed by Arizona State with 44 and Omaha with 38 in the top 3. North Dakota follows them with 37 and Denver with 36. Colorado College has 32, and rounding out the bottom 3 are Minnesota Duluth with 22 points, St. Cloud State with 18, and Miami, Ohio with 2.
The Ice Level Podcast is sponsored by Best Damn Tape. Best Damn Tape's mission is to supply the most affordable and elite-level sports tape to athletes worldwide. You can go to bestdamntape.com and use code DanKShow40, that's DanKShow40, to get 40% off your order. Go to bestdamntape.com and order your clear tape, your black and white tape, scented stick wax, and more.
This week's Rivalry Rundown takes us to a legendary football rivalry that has become more competitive on the ice over recent years. Sparking initially from the state's proximity and the Toledo War, Ohio State-Michigan is one of the most iconic rivalries in American sports, with multiple outdoor editions of the game, and the most recent one in Wrigley Field and 2025, Ohio State-Michigan in hockey is becoming an even more exciting rivalry than football sometimes. Before their games this weekend, Michigan leads the series with a 48-30-8 record overall. Despite the first game only being played in 1999, the establishment of both schools' programs in the rivalry's history makes this always a game to watch. This season, Ohio State won Game 1 at Wrigley, and Michigan won the other in overtime in Ann Arbor just a few days later. Most of the series legends come from Michigan, but former stars include Zach Werenski, Quinn Hughes, Kyle Connor, and Dylan Larkin, among other NHL players. The rivalry becomes all the more important this weekend to see who takes the 4 seed in the Big Ten, with Michigan and Penn State only 1 point apart. And with 2 weeks overall left in the regular season, let's check out one of our final, most important USCHO polls. BC leads the pack, jumping back into number 1 with 43 first-place votes, followed by the new number 2 Minnesota with 6. Michigan State follows them in 3rd, Western Michigan in 4th with 1 first-place vote, and Maine rounding out the top 5. Denver, Providence, Ohio State, UConn, and BU round out the top 10 with a lot of blue bloods in that mix. Michigan, Arizona State, Quinnipiac, Minnesota State, and Penn State round out the top 15 with bubble teams for the tournament. UMass Lowell, UMass, North Dakota, Clarkson, and Colorado College round out the bottom in the top 20. And with some postseason starting and some shaping up, let's check out our top games in Week 23 of the 2024-25 season for the Forecheck Forecast. As we spoke about before, number 10 Michigan visits number 8 Ohio State in the final weekend series of the Big Ten to renew their rivalry this season for the first time in Columbus on Thursday and Friday night. Number 16 Lowell and number 17 UMass also have their rivalry series like their Kennedy Cup tradition in basketball on Thursday night in Amherst and Saturday in Lowell. Number 13 Quinnipiac takes on number 19 Clarkson on Friday night in Potsdam in what could either solidify the Bobcats' Cleary Cup win or send it up for grabs for the Golden Knights when the two top ECAC hockey teams meet. New number 2 Minnesota heads to Hockey Valley to visit number 15 Penn State for a weekend series as the Nittany Lions look to build their case for an NCAA tournament bid, and Minnesota builds its for a number 1 seed. Finally, number 18 North Dakota visits number 4 Western Michigan for a 2-game weekend series between two top 4 teams in the NCHC. And that's all for this week. Thanks again for coming down to Ice Level. We may not be experts, but it takes fans to grow the game. I'm James Blennau, and I'll see you in the next episode.